You know something, guys? Music is pretty cool. Hi, everybody. My name is Kyler. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. And a lot has happened since I uploaded my last video. For starters, I got married. Now, for a while, I've neglected to do a specific video on this channel for myself, a collection video. I mean, I'm such a huge nerd. I love to collect games and music. The thought has come across a lot of times, and I just never decided to sit down and record a video until now. I was inspired by my friend Daniel. He has a channel called Dang Retro where he picks up a lot of video games, modern and new. If you want to give him a follow and a click, please go check out his channel. Please, he's my good friend. But yeah, for a long time I have neglected to talk about it. I'll save the video games for another time. But I really wanted to talk about my vinyl collection, and I also got a few new pickups that I got while I was in Richmond over the weekend. And I'm really happy with my collection. I used to have a slightly bigger collection, and then I sold off most of my collection, and then I decided to get back into it because there's just something so nice about hearing music on vinyl, even some of the newer stuff. So without further ado, I want to show you guys my vinyl collection as of this year. So first thing I got, and this was just kind of a random pickup, it's an ABBA album called Voyage. Now, I saw this when we were at a friend's wedding, and I had a lot of time to kill, so I decided to just pop on over to a record store close to our hotel, and I saw this. This is ABBA's most recent album, if I recall correctly. They haven't released anything in over like 30 years, and it was a really interesting listen. I don't remember much about it, but it's just cool to see the gang get back together for this unique album. I mean, like I said, I don't remember much of it, but I'm happy that I picked it up. I should pick up more ABBA albums. I love ABBA. They're probably the most notable Swedish pop group of their time. I'm probably of all time, most likely. But yeah, like I said, I don't remember much of it, but this is a pretty interesting pickup that I got back in 2021. A classic AC/DC album, Highway to Hell. This was, as you know, the last album that had Bon Scott on it before he tragically died due to alcohol poisoning. And this was produced by the legendary Mutt Lange. He was a well-known record producer at the time, and he was able to get a really polished sound out of these guys when this album came out. I mean, like I said, Highway to Hell was a classic song. Girls Got Rhythm is really catchy. All the songs are really catchy. Touch Too Much is a really groovy song I like to listen to. Yeah, and I want to say this was probably the breakout in the U.S. I mean, they weren't getting some traction, but this is like the album to like solidify them as a really great hard rock group. And then sadly, after Bon Scott died, they did replace him with Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson. He was the replacement, and then they released the classic Back in Black album, which probably is a better album, but this is still a great album, and the last to feature a great lead singer, Bon Scott. Rest in peace, my dude. Speaking of deceased musicians, I got a couple of Andy Gibb albums. I'm missing the second album in his trio, Shadow Dancing, but I have Flowing Rivers and what was this? After Dark. Andy Gibb was the younger brother of the Bee Gees, Maurice, Robert, and Barry Gibb. He had some pretty notable hits. Obviously, I just want to be your everything, and Shadow Dancing, which I don't have. He had a really short career. Unfortunately, his drug and alcohol abuse got the better of him in the 80s. And then even though he did clean up, unfortunately, he did too much damage to his body. And he tragically died in 1988. And he was on the way to... he was pretty well recovered and ready to get back into music. And then, just like that, he passed away. And like I said, his songs are pretty classic. I mean, he kind of did get overshadowed by his brothers. But Andy Gibb is a pretty underrated artist in his own right. So if you have the time and day, I mean, I'd say pick up his 3 albums. They're pretty solid in itself. Some of these were gifted to me. This is one of the this is Beastie Boys. I think it's just their self-titled. I don't remember, but my father-in-law got me this for Christmas, and I'm not too much of a Beastie Boys fanatic, but you know, he did gift me a lot of records. In fact, there's a bunch of records that he gifted me for Christmas. That he wanted me to listen to, so I need to plow through it. But I know that the Beastie Boys is a classic group from the 80s, and yeah, I need to give them a listen. The only song I really know from them was So What You Want. I played that a lot on Rock Band 2. But yeah, I need to get more familiar with their catalog. So, Zach, if you're watching, thank you for gifting me this. Next on the list, I got Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles. This is when they were taking their songwriting to a whole new level. They'd stopped touring, and Paul McCartney had, well, I know Paul McCartney and the rest of the Beatles worked really hard on this album. It is such a classic psychedelic trip. It's, I don't know what to say about Sgt. Pepper. It's so great. I mean, everything's on here. The title track itself, a little help from my friends with Any Without You. They're all great classic songs. I mean, I could gush about the Beatles' later catalog itself. Rubber Soul is my personal favorite of the Beatles catalog, but this is a really classic gem that you should listen to. It came out almost 60 years ago. Crazy that they were to achieve so much of this album. I mean, it gave Paul McCartney a lot of confidence with songwriting too. So yeah, Sgt. Pepper, classic album. Look at how happy they are. And jumping back to the Bee Gees, I got a big catalog of their work right here. I managed to pull it all out. Okay, so in chronological order for what I got, I have Horizontal, Idea, Odessa. I love the velvety cover on this one. This one's really nice to touch. Let's see. Oh, that's Trafalgar, Main Course, and then I have a live album. Here at Last, Bee Gees Live. What can I say about the Bee Gees? I mean, going back to Andy Gibb, and then I have some Bee Gees albums in my hand. They were a great psychedelic group in the '60s, and then the mid '70s came around and they jumped on the disco bandwagon, and that was their height. I need to get into their catalog a little more. I know Odessa is like a concept album, and funny enough, this put a rift between Robin Gibb and the other band members due to creative differences, and then the album after this one, Cucumber Castle, did not have Robin Gibb, but then the next album after that one, they were able to make up, and they were a trio once more. But it's strange. I think there was creative differences with Odessa, and then you got Idea, and then Horizontal has the classic Massachusetts on that album, and that is such a beautiful couple minutes of pop. It's very romantic in a sense, and I really love this. And I really love this group. And then obviously Main Course is where they went disco. A lot of classic songs: Nights on Broadway, Jive Talkin', When to Change. I really need to get the rest of their disco stuff. Children of the World, and then Spirits Have Flown. I should probably get the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack now that I think about it. But yeah, I'm trying to make it a goal to get all of the Bee Gees albums. So that's gonna take a while, but great group. I love to have these guys on vinyl. Next I have, this was kind of an interesting one I wanted to pick. Billie Eilish's debut album, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? But obviously I got into Billie Eilish with Bad Guy was my introduction to Billie Eilish, but I love a few other songs there. Zanny's pretty good. I love the song called 8, which is the 8th track. This is the 8th song on the track listing. Yeah, I haven't listened to this in a while, but I enjoyed the song Bad Guy so much I picked it up, and I like the dark, depressing vibe that Billie Eilish gives off on this album. And I haven't listened to her other two albums. I mean, obviously Birds of a Feather off of Hit Me Hard and Soft I've listened to. That's pretty cool, but I haven't listened to too much of her catalog aside from this whole album and then that song off of Hit Me Hard and Soft. But yeah, I should probably pick up more Billie Eilish stuff. But yeah, this is a pretty decent album in itself. Oh god, okay. Now we're into like the bulk of my collection, which is basically Billy Joel's almost entire catalog for the most part. So I'll run it through. So Cold Spring Harbor, his debut album, really underrated album. It shows off Billy Joel's piano finesse with ease. Really highly recommend listening to that. Okay, Piano Man. Obviously Piano Man is the big highlight on there. I know Kath and Jack is also another big hit off this album, but I haven't listened to too much of Piano Man aside from those two tracks. Even though Billy Joel is my favorite artist. My cat's up here. Billy Joel is my favorite male solo artist. He has such a unique way of writing songs. Just they're really fun. He's just really fun and creative musically. So, Street Life Serenade. Not the best album, but I really like the song The Entertainer on there, which kind of takes a shot at the music industry about having a short pop song to have on the radio. I feel like it's kind of a really relevant song because music execs are always trying to find the next person to, pump out a pop song, and if it doesn't hit, then if you gotta keep it short, simple. It's got to be catchy. If it doesn't hold the attention of the audience, then we're gonna find somebody else. So yeah. Other than that, I haven't listened to this album too much. It's probably his weakest album, but it's not bad. Turnstiles, I haven't listened to too much of this one either. New York State of Mind is obviously a pretty classic song on here, but haven't listened to too much of that one. Now, The Stranger, I think that's where he started to kick off a lot. Moving out Anthony's song, The Stranger, Just the Way You Are, She's Always a Woman, which I actually sung to my wife when I proposed to her last year. But this is where he really started to pick up momentum, in my opinion. And then that transitions into his probably my favorite album, 52nd Street. This, I believe, is his best album that he put out. Big Shot, Honesty, Zanzibar, and My Life, Zanzibar. Big Shot, Honesty, Mud Life, and Zanzibar. Those are some great first 4 songs on this album. And it's got a really good jazz theme to it as well. It's such a tightly crafted album, and I definitely recommend you listen to this. Now, Glass Houses was actually my first Billy Joel album that I got. I got it at a thrift store, and it's more of a hard rock edge to it. Classic, You May Be Right, Sometimes a Fantasy. What was it? Don't Ask Me Why It's Still Rock and Roll to Me. This is a pretty, in my top 5 Billy Joel albums. Then again, I haven't been nostalgic for it since it's my first Billy Joel album I was ever introduced to. So yeah, pick this up for sure. Now, his next album, The Nylon Curtain, I haven't listened to too often, but I've read in interviews that Billy Joel said he was really passionate with this album. He felt the most creative when making this album, and I need to listen to it a little more often. I know Allentown, Pressure, Goodnight Sagan are big hits off this album, and I need to take a crack at this a little more. Then we got An Innocent Man. This one has more soul elements into it. Easy Money, Innocent Man, Longest Time. I love this album so much. Uptown Girl is a classic song on this album. This album is, it's very upbeat. This is probably his most upbeat album that he's ever released, and it really shows with the production and all the musicality that's in this album. I really love this so much. The next one, The Bridge, kind of more of his weaker side. Not a bad album, but it has a lot of 80s textures that don't really age all that well. But I mean, Running on Ice, Modern Woman, This Is the Time. There are a lot of fun songs in this album, and yeah, not bad, but do better. A little side note: I have his. You can't really see it that well. It's his album when he went to Russia. I don't know how you pronounce it properly, but Billy Joel was invited to go to Russia to play a small short run of concerts in there because the Cold War was still going on, and they wanted a safe musician to introduce people to Western music. So Billy Joel was picked as the option. I don't know why, but he performed a really good set of shows aside from the first couple where the audience was just kind of deadpan. Actually, when he was doing Sometimes a Fantasy, and I wish this made it on the album, but during that session, he got really pissed off at the stage crew for putting a light on the audience because, keep in mind, this is the Cold War still going on, so if they were shown on camera, then or if they were shown at all, then they would, the USSR probably come and get them or something. So he got so mad at the stage crew, he flipped the piano, and I wish that that section made it on the album.
Stop lighting the audience!
I mean, that would have been funny if it. We're on to the last of his studio albums, Stormfront. Hold on. Stormfront and River of Dreams. Now, this is the one that has the famous "We Didn't Start the Fire" on it. Could be Billy Joel's weakest song. I mean, all the lyrics are just basically listing off political figures, just events that happened in his life from 1949 to 1989. But it's still a catchy song regardless. And then we have River of Dreams. This was his last studio album that he released. Well, there was also the orchestral album that he released in 2001, but I don't have that one. But River of Dreams is probably my favorite song out of all of Billy Joel's catalog. It's very gospel, and you never really would expect it to hear Billy Joel do gospel, but Billy Joel is. I feel like Billy Joel switched genre. He kind of tweaks his genre a little bit to make it fit with his albums, and River Dreams is such a masterpiece. And the album artwork was made by his then wife Christy Brinkley, and I think this is his best cover. I like the album. It's the cover so much because if you look at the album, each like picture you can decipher like which song it goes with. So, and that's Billy Joel obviously. So I mean, classic album, a pretty good send off for Billy Joel, and then he stopped making music for a while, and then he had Turn on the Lights Again, his first original song in over 30 years, which I could gush about Billy Joel so much, but this video is going to be pretty long as is, but I need to move on. But yeah, Billy Joel, great musician, you need to listen to him. Jumping into Black Sabbath. So I had really weird, the only couple, I need to get more Sabbath albums, but Never Say Die was the last album that Ozzy Osbourne was on, as he was fired from the band for his alcohol and drug abuse, which thankfully he got back on track thanks to his now wife Sharon Arden, who helped him kick off his solo career with the help of the producer Don Arden. But yeah, it's not a bad album. It's a very big departure from the heavy metal. It's more like hard rock, and even Bill Ward, the drummer, had to step in for a couple of songs because Ozzy just didn't show up to a lot of these sessions. So a pretty underrated album. But what's the Triforce doing there? Something to shape Nintendo. Did you shamelessly steal this for your Zelda game? And then we have Heaven and Hell. This was the introduction to Ronnie James Dio of one of two albums that he was on before he went and formed his own band. Really underrated album. Like I said, Neon Nights Heaven, the title track itself, all the songs are really good. And Dio was more into like the black magic mysticism of music, and it's just, I don't know, I feel like it works for Black Sabbath. I mean, I'm happy that he got to do his own thing, rest in peace. But yeah, this is a pretty good album to listen to. I need to get more Sabbath albums. This was gifted from my father-in-law. Thank you, Zach. Bob Dylan, bringing it all back home. Keep track of this. Keep track of Bob Dylan. We'll come back to him in a second. But yeah, I'm not too familiar with Bob Dylan's work. I know that he is one of the most inspirational musicians / lyricists of all time. I know that he was really big in the '60s, and this was like one of the three triple albums that launched him into superstardom. Well, he was already a superstar with the folk rock music, but like when he started writing a lot of politically charged lyrics, Subterranean and Homesick Blues, for example, that's on Mr. Tambourine Man. That's like where Bob Dylan was like hitting a new stride. But I took one listen to it, and I need to listen to it again. It's real. Bob Dylan's one of those musicians where you really need to pay attention to his lyrics, because Bob Dylan may not be the most like versatile musician vocally, but his lyrics I know hit a lot with people. So thank you, Zach, for gifting me these. I got two Cream albums, Wheels of Fire and Goodbye Cream. I just need to get the other two studio albums. Wheels of Fire is a fucking fire album. I can't tell you how much I love this album. It's so good. White Room, Sitting on Top of the World, Pressed Rat and Warthog. And then aside from the studio section, you get on the vinyl you get a disc of live tracks, Crossroads, Spoonful, Train Time Toad, and they're really long. And the musicianship between Jack Bruce, Ginger Baker, and Eric Clapton really shines on this album. And then Goodbye Cream. This was their last studio album because they were breaking up. Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker fought a lot, and because they were in a band called the Graham Bond Organization, they fought a lot there. And then when they did form the supergroup with Eric Clapton, they fought a lot too. And I know that George Harrison had a hand in the song Badge. And there's obviously I'm So Glad, Politician. So it's a half live, half studio. It's a really short album. There's only there's only 6 songs on this album. Jesus, yeah, it's a short album because they're breaking up and they're going their way. But Cream is one of the greatest supergroups of all time, one of the best bands ever. I highly recommend giving them a listen to. I wanted to get the 4 LP vinyl at the time, but it's sold out. So Cuphead is a fantastic 2D kick in the balls platformer and has a great soundtrack too. So this is just the selected tunes. It's not the whole soundtrack, but Cuphead, Cuphead returns to that Disney 30s 40s style of animation and the music itself. I don't know. I can't really, not much to say. It's a great. I mean, all the songs are great on here, but I need to get the 4 LP ones. So Cuphead, great game, great soundtrack. I need to finish that game actually. You may be asking, why the hell do you have 2 copies of Random Access Memories here? well, this was the 10th anniversary release, and I just wanted to get it for the sole reason that Horizon, my favorite Daft Punk song, is on this LP. Because for a long time it was a Japan exclusive for 10 years because it got delayed in Japan, and as an apology, Daft Punk made a bonus track on the CD version of this song, and forever it's been locked to that. I mean, there has been real uploads on YouTube, but never officially released on anything until 2023 when this got a re-release. It got re-released on Spotify, and I gotta say, Random Access Memories, despite it being a departure from their techno music, it for their electronic music, this has a lot of 70s and 80s funk textures to it, and it's a really amazing album. Obviously, Get Lucky was the big hit off this album. This album came out when I was finishing up junior year of high school. Never really paid much attention to the group until much later, but sucks that they broke up, but I mean, they went on a high note and it won them a ton of Grammys, so I need to get the rest of their albums on vinyl. But yeah, Random Access Memories is peak Daft Punk. They went out on a high note. I'm really happy that I have these albums. And then I also want to get the other one where it's without the drums. Yeah, that's probably a cash grab one, but I want to have all three of them anyways. But this is a fantastic album. Okay, here we go. David Lee Roth's Eat 'Em and Smile debut. This is after he had left Van Halen, and this is a pretty David Lee Roth album. It's got a lot of energy. Yankee Rose Shy Boy. This is a pretty fun album to listen to. Yeah, I mean, his solo career never really took off after it never really truly took off after he left Van Halen, but I mean, this is still a fun album to listen to. It's got a nice cover of David Lee Roth. Maybe racially insensitive nowadays, I don't know, but it was the 80s. Okay, next, I got a couple of these. I got David Gilmour's second album, About Face, and then his most recent album, Luck and Strange. This album was released after he had worked on the final cut, which was the last Pink Floyd album that Roger Waters was on, and David Gilmour was not really happy with the turn of that album, so he decided to break away from Pink Floyd for a bit to do a solo album and do a bunch of other stuff. But this isn't a bad album. I don't remember too much of it. Now, this album, Luck and Strange, I want to save this. I want to save it for a separate video, but I got this album when I went and saw him at Madison Square Garden because David Gilmour was doing a very small run of shows, and me, my wife, and my best friend from high school, I bought tickets for all of them so we can go see him because sometimes with aging musicians you never really know how long they have, but I wanted to see him on tour, and I got this on vinyl, and The Piper's Call was like the first single release for this album, and then Between 2 Points, which was a cover song which has his daughter Romany Gilmore on it. It's so beautiful. This is a pretty fun album. When I went and saw him at Madison Square Garden, he played the entire album, not in one single running because he played other songs from Pink Floyd songs obviously, but it was a really fantastic show. This is a pretty good album. I want to save the David Gilmour Experience video for another time, but pick up this album if you get the chance. I got a couple. Ooh, geez, I'm gonna have to reorganize this later. I've got two Deep Purple albums, Burn and Perfect Strangers. This is a pretty underrated album. So this was after Ian Gillan and Roger Glover, the singer and the bassist, left the band after a lot of pressure. And David Coverdale, who would go later to go form Whitesnake, was chosen as the replacement singer. And then, hold on a second. Glenn Hughes. Glenn Hughes was the bass replacement for Roger Glover for bass. And this is a pretty hard rocking album to listen to. The title track is really good. Sail Away is really good. Full You Fool No One. This is a very underrated Deep Purple album in their catalog. And then I have Perfect Strangers on album. This is when Ian Gillan and Roger Glover came back. So after their last album that came out in 1976, Deep Purple disbanded, and this is obviously without Ian Gillan, but they came back. But they came back in 1984. This is not a terrible album. It's got a lot of 80s textures in it, but Knocking at Your Back Door, the title track, Perfect Strangers. This is a pretty good rockin' album, and maybe not Deep Purple's best, but it's a pretty solid album altogether, so I'd give this a listen. Got a couple of Doors albums. I love the Doors. I need to finish getting their albums, the rest of their discography. Strange Days, this was their second album, released in the same year, 1967, after their debut album. Really solid album altogether. Obviously, Strange Days. Love Me Two Times, classic songs. When the Music's Over, these are all really good songs off this album. Not sure which one's better. Like between the two, their debut and Strange Days. They're both really good albums. They're solid. The Soft Parade I have here, probably their weakest album, their most commercial sounding album to date. Not a terrible album per se. I love Touch Me. I love the title track itself. It's just not what we're used to with the Doors up to that point. I mean, and the Doors are already swimming in controversy at this point with Jim Morrison getting arrested in New Haven, Connecticut, and I think this might have come out. I'm not sure what time in '69. This might have come out during. I'm not sure if it came out during the Miami incident when Jim Morrison exposed himself on stage. But this isn't a bad album. And then my favorite Doors album, The L.A. Woman. It's the most raw sounding Doors album since their original, I'd say. Obviously, so the producer Paul Rothschild, he didn't like the music that was coming out for this album. Some of the music he classified as cocktail music, so he left working on it, and engineer Bruce Botnick became the producer for this album. And they were able to record this album within a week or so, I think. To minimize the cost in the studio, Jim Morrison actually used the bathroom as a vocal booth to get that raw sound out, and this is their best album. Obviously, their last one before Jim Morrison tragically died in Paris. But yeah, The Changeling, The Riders on the Storm, L.A. Woman, the title track, all the songs are really raw and, just raw and gut punching to listen to. So yeah, please give this a listen. My favorite Doors album. I've got a couple of Earth, Wind & Fire albums in here. Let's see. Oh, what was this one? I Am. Oh yeah, this one, After the Love Is Gone, In the Stone, Boogie Wonderland. Earth, Wind & Fire is such a amazing, funky, upbeat group. And I need to get more of their out. I need to get all their 70s output. I mean, I'm going to try to get all their albums, but this is such a great album. Oh, look at that. I never really noticed that, but that is... Look at all the band members on this album right here. It can't get much more happy than this. And then I have another one. What is it? Powerlight? I don't know too much about this album. I tried listening to it, and I kind of stopped in the middle, but I need to give this one a chance. I don't know many of the songs off of this album per se, but I want to give this a shot too. So yeah, but Earth, Wind & Fire, you can't go wrong with having on vinyl. This is the only Elton John album I have, Blue Moves, a very underrated album in his discography. And a lot of the critics didn't like this album. They thought the music produced was too sentimental. It's also a double album, so it's pretty long. But I think it produced some of Elton John's more raw moments on this album. I mean, Tonight is a great song. Sorry Seems to Be the Hardest Word originated from this album. And there's so many fun and emotional songs on this album. It is such an underrated gem in Elton John's discography. Really wish I got to see him live though, and I kind of just dipped down the chance of going to see him, and now he's retired. So at least we still have his music to listen to. So yeah, but Blue Moves, a highly recommended album to listen to. You will not be disappointed by the amount of songs and craftsmanship that's on this album. Oh, this one's a little damaged. But this is an original copy of Elvis Presley's debut. I mean, what can I say about Elvis Presley? Whether you think he's a bad person or not, I mean, I'm not going to get into that. I know that Elvis is not the most clean person in the world, but you can't deny that his music is pretty amazing too. Blue Suede Shoes, his cover of it, Tutti Frutti. It was a very good introduction. I mean, this is when rock and roll was coming into its own form, and I don't know what to say. I mean, it's a great out. I mean, it's falling apart. Like I said, it's an original copy, but I'm happy that I had this. I think this was my grandmother's, and somehow I ended up getting it. So thanks, Grandma. Rest in peace. But classic Elvis album. Can't go wrong with that. Well, I don't think you could have a vinyl collection without Fleetwood Mac's most iconic album, Rumors. I mean, kind of recorded in a really weird time when all the band members are obviously Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks, they broke up. John McVie and Christina McVie got divorced, and then Mick Fleetwood also had his own divorce. But you never really know that you can hear it in the songs that they Secondhand News, You Can Go Your Own Way, The Chain. Obviously, there's a lot of shots back and forth between the band members, but it sounds so good, and I don't think you could. I mean, this is arguably their best album, and yeah, what can I say? Even though that the band was kind of in a really weird place, personally, with the relationships, they still churned out an amazing album. So I mean, Can't go wrong with rumors, eh? All right, I got some Genesis here. So I got a mixture of a couple of Genesis. So we'll go through the Peter Gabriel albums real quick. So I have I've got Nursery Crime, Foxtrot, and Selling England by the Pound. I need to get the other few that I'm missing from the Peter Gabriel. Obviously, the Peter Gabriel and the Phil Collins-led era are very different. I mean, Phil Collins did become the drummer on this album, and then he was the drummer. He was the drummer and then became the singer after Peter Gabriel left. But the prog rock era Peter Gabriel is nothing to scoff at. I mean, these were guys that were. I mean, this era, all the musicians were in their early 20s when they made these albums, and a lot of these music complexities that they put together on the album, all these tunes that they churned out, it's so incredible. And the fact that they, like I said, they were in their early 20s when they made these were really, really good. I mean, Selling by the Pound's amazing. Foxtrot, Supper's Ready is a classic song. And then, Nursery Crime, we get the musical box and Return of the Giant Hogweed on here. Such classic prog rock tunes that are really enjoyable to listen to. And then obviously when Peter Gabriel left, Phil Collins became the vocalist, the lead vocalist for the remainder of Genesis' lifetime. This was the debut album, Trick of the Tail, that was released when he took over, and this is such a really, I mean, it still has those prog rock elements before they moved into more pop rock, but like Dance on a Volcano, Squawk, really amazing tracks, and it just showed that the band could carry on without Peter Gabriel. And then this was probably their peak Invisible Touch. I love this album. I consider it a near perfect album in my opinion. I mean, I know 80s albums, they go back and forth and whatnot, but I think this is a really solid pop album, and this could be at a point, this is also at a point where, you're seeing Phil Collins everywhere. I mean, solo career and with Genesis, people were probably getting sick of him, but I don't deny that this is a really solid, crafted pop album that Phil Collins, Mike Rutherford, and Tony Banks created. So, like I say, Invisible Touch, Land Confusion, a really relevant song when it comes to lyrical topics and politics and whatnot, but solid altogether. I highly recommend listening to this one. All these albums I'd recommend you listen to. What the hell am I talking about? I got some George Harrison. So obviously George Harrison probably has the most unique discography out of all the Beatles lineup. I mean, he only had 10 studio albums released altogether. I actually started collecting George Harrison records after watching J.T. Curtis. I don't know if you should check out his reviews. I like his reviews. So he was the reason why I got the George Harrison albums. But I have Living in the Material. This was after he released All Things Must Pass. Pretty solid album altogether. Dark Horse. I picked this up in New York actually right before going to the David Gilmour concert. Dark Horse was recorded at a really bad time in George Harrison's life. Losing his wife. I mean, he was getting divorced from his. He's going to get a divorce from his wife. He had laryngitis while he recorded this album, and there's some good songs on here too. But it was a very dark period in this album, hence why it's called Dark Horse. And then we have 33 1/3. This was when he formed his own label, Dark Horse Records, and it has a lot of great songs on here. Woman, Don't You Cry for Me. Cracker Box Palace. George has there's a lot of funky tunes on here, and it's a pretty underrated album in my opinion. And then, like I said, Dark Horse, not a bad album, but poor George was going through a lot. And then Living in the Material is such a spiritual, I don't know, I get a spiritual cleansing whenever I get to listen to this album. It's so, I don't know what to say. Living in the Material is such a great album. I'm gonna get all of his albums at some point. Inagata de Via by Iron Butterfly, oh my lord. I only know this song. I know this song from my friend Jacob in high school, and then I also know this song because it briefly played in the sixth Nightmare on Elm Street film. I need to listen to this more. I need to get into Iron Butterfly. I know they're a fairly underrated group, but I know the only song I know is Inagata de Vita, so maybe later. Iron Maiden, if I can get them in the sleeves. Okay. So I got Number of the Beast and I got Seventh Son of the Seventh Son. So this was the album, their third studio album, and their first with the vocalist Bruce Dickinson. And let me say, come on, you can't go wrong with Bruce Dickinson. He's such a powerhouse, and none of the other members shy away from their prowess on this album too. I mean, Invaders, Number of the Beast, Run to the Hills. This is such a classic power heavy metal album. This belongs in a collection. Regardless, okay, this is such a fantastic album. You need to listen to this. And then I have Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. This is a fairly underrated album too. I love the Clairvoyant Moonchild. This is when at this point they've introduced synthesizers in their line of music, and then they did that with their prior album Somewhere in Time, which I really want to get because that's my favorite Iron Maiden album. But this is a really enjoyable album. All the albums that Iron Maiden made in the 80s are great. So I'll run through some more obscure stuff, I guess. The Jacksons' Victory. This is the last album with the Jacksons. Obviously, before, and this is Michael Jackson getting really big. I don't know too much about this one. And then Running on Empty by Jackson Browne. Obviously, I know the title track. Oh, there's a song called Cocaine on here. I wonder if that has any relevance to the Eric Clapton song. Probably not. But yeah, haven't listened to these two albums too much. It's got really nice. This one's got really nice artwork of all the Jackson brothers on here. And then, Run on Empty. So, I mean, Jimi Hendrix. I have Are You Experienced? And I have Axis Bold as Love. Now, obviously, Jimi Hendrix is one of the greatest guitar players of all time. This was gifted to me as a graduation present from a friend named Ed. So, Ed, thank you for this album. And then I picked this up in a collection with a bunch of other records. But I know that I need to really get into Hendrix because I know that he's such a prouse when it comes to his guitar playing. Yeah, what can I say? Jimi Hendrix, one of the greatest guitar players ever. One of the greatest guitar players of all time. Maybe arguably the greatest, but that's a debate. But yeah, happy I have some Hendrix in my lineup. And then Joe Cocker and the Magdalens was also another gift from my father-in-law. I only know Joe Cocker from his cover of With the Help of My Friends, but I know he's a fairly decent musician too. So I know he does like a lot of covers and such, but I need to give him more of a listen to because he's a pretty entertaining musician. Next, I got Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance. I had this a while ago, and then I sold it, and then I found this for like less than $10 at a little thrift store. But I know Judas Priest is a really awesome metal band, and I love the album artwork too. I just love this robotic bird just like swooping down like it's coming to catch its prey. But I need to get into more of Judas Priest. Okay, next is the Lemon Twigs. A Dream is All We Know. Now, I first heard of the Lemon Twigs. I've actually first heard about it through a YouTuber named Elliot Roberts. He covered the album Everything Is Harmony, and these guys are pretty amazing. Their influence from 60s and 70s music really shows on their albums. I haven't listened to too much of this album. I got this while I was on a vacation in the Outer Banks. I think it was like the day after I proposed to my wife. But yeah, I need to give this album a listen to. Everything in Harmony is also a really good album too to listen to. But Lemon Twigs is a pretty good. They're a pretty good act. These guys know how to make a fun rock album. Okay, and then look, it's Thriller. What more can I say about Thriller? I mean, my personal favorite Jackson album is Off the Wall. He's got a tiger too. Wonder how that tiger's doing. But I mean, want to be starting something Thriller. It's Thriller. What more can I say about it? Classic Michael Jackson album, one of the best, the best-selling album of all time. You should have this in your collection. Okay, and I got from Olivia Newton-John. I don't know too much about her. I don't know too much about her work, but I have it. Pretty sure I got this as a gift too, or I found it somewhere. But just going for a swim. Yeah, I need to. There's a lot of records I need to get into that I have. Peter Gabriel's Scratch. So the weird thing about Peter Gabriel's albums is that his first 4 albums were just called Peter Gabriel. So their subtitle was based on what the image was, and this is his second album, so they just subtitled it Scratch. You can tell by his scratching. I need to get more of his albums though. I don't have his first album, and I also don't have his 5th album. So Sledgehammer. But Peter Gabriel, after he left Genesis, really found his creative stride when it came to his making his own music. Like he's such an amazing musician, and hopefully one day I get to go see him on tour if he's still touring. But yeah, I'm happy I have his second album on vinyl. And then let's talk about the Floyd real quick. I haven't opened this. I got this while I was in Florida. Saucerful Secrets. This is their second album, and this was after Sid Barrett departed, even though he has one song here called Jug Band Blues. David Gilmour joined the band already, and this album's a very weird transitional period after Sid left. So, and it took them a while to find their stride, but this is not a bad album. And then Obscured by Clouds. This is a very underrated album. Right before Dark Side of the Moon, it was recorded for a French film called La Vallée. And then they recorded this album in 2 weeks, and it has a lot of fun rockers on this album. Kind of gets overshadowed between a lot of their artwork, but like I said, Obscured by Clouds is an amazing, underrated album. And then you honestly can't have a record collection without Dark Side of the Moon. I want to talk about this album in a separate video. Even though I think objectively this is probably their best album, and it flows so well. This is an album you need to listen to all the way through. But You know, the music, the lyrics, oh my god, everything is so perfectly crafted, and this is at a point where Pink Floyd had finally perfected their craft. They basically kind of hit their peak, not to say that their albums after this faltered by any means, but it's such a classic album. I mean, even non-music fans know about the classic prism design with this album. I mean, I like this album so much. I got the live version when they re-released the live at Wembley Stadium, and I like listening to this as much as the album too. So, I mean, I'm a sucker for live albums too. And obviously, the live album is just like pre-sketches of before they did the final design. But probably my favorite Pink Floyd album is Animals. I just love how punchy and heavy and dark it is. Obviously, this was loosely based off of George Orwell's Animal Farm, and the song, targets 3 specific classes: pigs, dogs, and sheep. Album you really need to listen to all the way through. Probably my personal favorite. I jumped around between what was my favorite. The Wall used to be my favorite, and then some of their other works kind of top that too. But yeah, for the Pink Floyd, one of my favorite bands. Another one of my favorite groups. Oh, excuse me. The Police. I got a Regatta de Blanc on here. This is the second follow. The only one I don't have on vinyl is Atlantis de Amor. I technically have it down here, but the top part of the vinyl, or piece of it, is cracked, so I can't really play it. So if I can't play it, I don't own it. But Regatta de Blanc is a really amazing album. Message in a Bottle obviously originates from this album. Such a classic song to listen to. The instrumental Regatta de Blanc, which I really like, off of the Synchronicity Deluxe, where they performed it live with Can't Stand Losing You, was such an amazing song. Walking on the Moon, On Any Other Day is a fun little goofy track that Stuart Copeland came up. Very good, pretty good album. And then I always go back and forth between which one's my favorite Police album. Zenyatta Madonna's a really amazing song. Don't Stand So Close to Me, Driven to Tears. Oh, I love the one, The Road's Running Down. The instrumental Voices in My Head. This is such a great little fun punk reggae album to listen to. Then they do a bit of a departure with Ghost in the Machine. Spirits in the Material. Every little thing she does is magic. Invisible Sun, all great, industrial sounding and whatnot. It's such a pretty good sounding album. Probably not my favorite, but it's still a good album. And then I go back between with this and this one, and Zenyatta Madonna's Synchronicity being my favorite Police album. This is the last album they released as a group. They went out on the top. Obviously, every little breath you take is done here. I love Synchronicity too. King of Pain. There's a lot of fun songs on here. Like I said, it's got more synthesizers on it too. I mean, not to say that Ghost in the Machine didn't have any synthesizers, but it just sounds really good to me, and I really love this album. Like I said, I go back and forth between this one and their third album being my favorite, but The Police, classic groupers, how short-lived together they were. I got a Primus album right here, The Desaturating 7, which was their most recent album as of this recording. It's based off of the book The Rainbow Goblins, and it's also their shortest album too. But I think the cool thing about this album is that it's got a lot of color to it. It's got little paint splatters on the vinyl. So I only listened to it once, but I know it's based off of the book of the same name. And I really want to, speaking of Rainbow Goblins, I really want to get Masayoshi Takanaka's Rainbow Goblins on vinyl. I don't know where to find it, so if anybody knows where to find that, please let me know. But yeah, I haven't listened to much of this iteration of Rainbow Goblins, but Primus is Primus. They're a fun band to listen to. What else do I got here? Okay, so I got some Ohio Players records. I got Honey and Mr. Mean. I don't want to show off the Honey cover because it's very provocative and I made you get this video age restricted. But obviously on Honey, Roller Coaster of Love is on here, which the Chili Peppers covered for the Beavis and Butthead movie. And then I picked this up I also picked this up at the same place. I got the other I got the David Gilmour album at as well. Mr. Mean, I don't know too much about it, but I know that Ohio Players is a fairly underrated funk jazz group and whatnot. So yeah, I'd love to show you the album cover for Honey, but sorry. This is the biggest one I have in my collection is Red Hot Chili Peppers Stadium Arcadium. Danny California's on here, Snow Hey Yo. Storm in a Teacup is really good too, and the title track itself. It's such a fun album. This came out, I remember when Danny California came out. I think I'm trying to think. Rock Band's probably where I first heard the song, and then I got into the group. I need to get more of their albums on vinyl, specifically, Mother's Milk, Blood Sugar Sex Magic, but this is a really fun album to listen to. Oh, these were also gifted to be by my father-in-law, Ricky Lee Jones. I don't know too much about her. He got this for me for Christmas, so this is obviously stuff he likes. And then I need to give it a listen too. So if any of you fellas know anything about Ricky Jones, leave in the comments below. The Robin Thompson's Band. So this actually, funny enough, my father-in-law knows the drummer of the band. He was at our wedding. His name's Bob Antonelli, or we just call him Rico. If I pronounce the last name, I'm sorry. But I haven't listened to this one, but I'd like to give it a listen to. It's very interesting cover. I don't know who this person is on the cover, but thank you, Zach, for getting me this too. And then we have Rod Stewart's "Blondes Have More Fun." Do You Think I'm Sexy's on here. This is a pretty fun album to listen to. Very poppy, very upbeat. I don't have too many Rod Stewart albums on vinyl, but I got this one. Because Do You Think I'm Sexy's on here, and like I said, it's a fun song to listen to. And another one from my father-in-law. Actually, these couple ones are from my father-in-law. Rolling Stones, Exile on Main Street. This is probably released during the golden era of the Rolling Stones when they released stuff in the 70s. I know Tumbling Dice is on here, but I don't know too much about this album in particular as a whole. So, but I want to give it more of a listen to. And then I got a Ride Cooler's Paradise and Lunch. I don't know, like I said, a lot of these, the ones that were gifted to me, some of them I do know, some of them I don't. This is one I don't know, but any of you Ride Cooler fans out there, let me know what you think of it. Nice little drawn martini glass on the cover. And then this one was actually gifted to me by my sister-in-law, Jordan. It's called The Shins, Shoots to Narrow. I did give this a listen, but I wasn't really paying attention. I put it on in the background to do something, but yeah, but it's got a nice storybook pop cover album cover too. So, thank you, Jordan, for gifting me this for Christmas. I love you very much, and I hope you're doing okay. Sting's debut album, The Dream of the Blue Turtles. If you love somebody, set them free. This is obviously when Sting broke away from the police to do his own, and he even had a bigger, successful career as a solo artist. The Russians is a probably timely song on this album too. He does a cover of Shadows in the Rain, which was originally on Zenyatta Mandata. But this is a great first introduction to Sting solo material too. I need to get more of this stuff on vinyl. And then we got Sturgill Simpson, High Top Mountain. This also was gifted to me from my father-in-law. Don't know too much about this album. Like I said, gonna give it a listen, but I kind of like the glass painting cover on here. If I can comment on the art, I haven't really commented too much on the art of these albums, but I'm gonna give this a listen at some point. So thank you, Zach, again. What else do I got? Supertramp's Breakfast in America. This is a classic album to listen to. Gone Hollywood, The Logical Song, Goodbye Stranger. This is a really solid album put together by the group, and you gotta love how enthusiastic this woman is about giving the band some orange juice. But yeah, I don't know too much about Supertramp, but I just know this is like their most iconic album, and it's a really good album to listen to. So I'll probably give them more of a chance too if I can find more of their albums. What else do I have? Oh, it's all falling apart. Oh, Tom Waits' let's see. Tom Waits? What's the... Tom Waits' Heart Attack and Vine. I don't know too much about this album. This was also gifted to me by my father-in-law. If you guys know anything about Tom Waits, please let me know. If there's any other vinyl records from him I need to listen to, please let me know. Thank you, Zach, again. This one, Tommy Bolin, Private Eyes. So, Tommy Bolin was actually the second guitarist for Pink Floyd. He had a really short stint with Pink Floyd on Come Taste the Band, the last numbers before they disbanded in the mid-70s, and he was the guitarist for the band after Ritchie Blackmore left to form Rainbow with Ronnie James Dio before he went to do Black Sabbath in his own band. But he's a fairly underrated guitarist, and he only had 2 albums released, and then unfortunately he died of a drug overdose in '76. But I haven't listened to this album in a while, but I need to give it a re-listen to. But Tommy Bolin, really underrated guitarist. Sucks that he had to die at an early age. This more modern, more of a modern release, like the Lemon Twigs album that I have, Igor by Tyler the Creator. Now I didn't know too much about Tyler the Creator when I was starting to listen to him. I first heard his song Earthquake when I was out in Colorado in 2019. I was volunteering for a film festival, and it popped up in my YouTube feed, and I'm like, oh, this is a pretty fun song. And then I was able to find Igor on vinyl, and it's a really solid like soul R&B album to listen to. Yeah, it was like my first. It was my first introduction to Tyler the Creator. I know he goes back to the early 2010s, but this is where I know it's like with Flower Boy and then this album and then Call Me When You Get Lost. He really started to, and Chromacopia, if we're keeping up with it. He started getting like really good for allegedly. So, but yeah, Igor's a really solid album together. I highly recommend listening to it. And even though I'm not like much of a rap, R&B, soul guy as much, this is an exception. So yeah. Van Halen, the debut album by them. 1984 is my personal favorite, but this is a pretty close second. Obviously, they come in swinging hard with this debut album, you know, Running with the Devil, Eruption, their cover of The Kinks, You Really Got Me. This is such a fantastic album. David Lee Roth is such an eclectic and energetic frontman for the band. I mean, even with the band going with Sammy Hagar for a bit, I mean, Sammy Hagar made the better range, but I think David Lee Roth was the better frontman, even though he couldn't hit notes as high as a Sammy Hagar. But this is such a really strong album. I need to get all of their albums on vinyl. Okay, the last one on the shelf I have is Yes 90215. Yes 902125. Jesus Christ, I can't speak. This is the one that has album that had a bit of had a resurgence with Owner of a Lonely Heart. Was a very popular song on this album. I mean, Yes is such a integral progressive rocker of the 70s, and I'm happy that I do have this album. I need to get Close to the Edge and Fragile on vinyl. I listened to it once a few years ago, and I haven't really given much attention, but I should. But I need to give all these albums a spin and some love at some point. My father-in-law went to a record store over the weekend, and he purchased records for me. So thank you, Zach, for the purchase. So a little updated inventory on my record collection. All right, so one vinyl I got, Rolling Stones' "Let It Bleed." I really love this album. Like I said, this is one of the records I had in my collection originally, and then I got rid of. But I wanted to add this back in my collection. I mean, you can't get any. This is such an iconic cover, and this is such a great album. Obviously, the last one that had Brian Jones on it before he tragically died in a swimming pool in 1969. But, you know, Gimme Shelter, Midnight Rambler, Monkey Man, You Can't Always Get What You Want. This is such a fun album to listen to. It makes me hungry thinking about eating that cake. Maybe not with all the record shit on it, too. So, I've got Tarkus by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Now, again, just like with J.T. Curse with George Harrison, this is where I first heard about this album. A pretty interesting progressive rock album, and it's got the Armadillo tank on here. It's got a nice. I need to give this a listen to all the way through, but I was inspired by J.T. Curtis to go get this album on vinyl, and now that I'm happy I do, I got to give this a spin because progressive rock is a really good gem, and you know it's a really cool art cover with the Armadillo tank on there. So. Next one I have is Steely Dan, Countdown to Ecstasy. This was this is their second album after Can't Buy Me a Thrill. I don't know too much about this album. I'm familiar with their other work, but not their second album. It's got Showbiz Kids in there, which I did see. I did watch like a live version of it from the Midnight Special on YouTube somewhere. But yeah, I need to give this album a listen to. Then coming back to Bob Dylan, we have Highway 61 Revisited. Now this is another one of the other like triple like gold albums that Bob Dylan released in the mid 60s. You know, like a Rolling Stones on here. I really need to give him a listen. I know he has a shit ton of albums, and you know if I want to go for all of Bob Dylan's albums on vinyl, I know it's gonna take a while, but I know Highway 61 is one of his best. So the last one that I have is Remain in Light by the Talking Heads. I've been getting into the Talking Heads like over the past year. And this is a really great album. Probably their most well crafted album. Once in a Lifetime is where this song originates from. 100 Punches is great. Cross-Eyed and Painless, The Great Curve. This is such a great album. It was also the last one produced with Brian Eno until their next album. Or this is the last one produced with Brian Eno before Brian Eno went to do other things. But this is a really great album. Really solid altogether. Shucks that the Talking Heads only lasted as long as they did, but like I said, this is my personal favorite Talking Heads album. I also love the live album Stop Making Sense, which I also want to get on vinyl too. But yeah, fantastic. I think it's a fantastic album to end on. So that is my whole vinyl collection as of this year. I'd love to come back and do another like update video like in the next year or so and talk about what other things I updated to my collection. And I know this video is probably long as it is, but if you did stick around to the end, I really do appreciate you watching this video and me gushing about some of my favorite bands that I have on vinyl. What are some of your favorite albums that I listed up here? Comment below, and if there's anything I should add to my collection, please also let me know. Alright, well, I'm gonna wrap up this video. I do appreciate you guys watching this video. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'm gonna reorganize this and go feed my cats. So, bye!